apart, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about AI use for people who are wanting to get into nursing, for current nursing students, and for nurses who are starting to make plans to enter a healthcare business or maybe even brainstorming healthcare businesses. A very quick introduction before I jump in. My name is Tiffany Neal. Again, I'm a BSN RN. I help untraditional students like myself get into nursing school because I did not become a nurse until my mid-30s. I help existing nursing students crush their classes and clinicals, and I also help bedside nurses pivot to healthcare businesses, specifically assisted living facilities. That's what my background is in. I have owned and operated assisted living facilities, and I now do consulting to help other people get theirs licensed up and running smoothly. So that's my specialty. I can't tell you how to open anything else, but you will research other healthcare businesses with me on subsequent Monday Night Lives, okay? So that is who I am. We're going to go over some housekeeping really quickly. This is an abnormal live because I'm on YouTube and I'm on Zoom at the same time. And I'm used to Zoom. We've already had our 2 Monday Night Lives on Zoom already, but now I'm pushing it out to YouTube, hoping that you guys get some value from this as well. So welcome in. The first rule is just come in and listen. Pop the earbud in and just hang out. If you want to ask questions, come into the Zoom room. Again, tonight's live is a little topsy-turvy, but I'm excited. I want to point out one thing right away. For those who come into the Zoom live, no participants can see each other in the Zoom for privacy reasons. I have colleagues, I have professors, I have family and friends that are interested in getting some of the information dropped during these lives, but they don't necessarily want their names, their usernames, their government names put on Front Street yet, especially for nurses who are looking to expand their horizons into business. So feel free to ask questions throughout the chat in the Zoom room. I'm the only person that can see the questions that are asked. And feel free to, put any burning questions that you have or even email questions to me at questions@thenextlevelnurses.com. So tonight, we are talking about AI, and I know this is extremely controversial. AI use is something that we'll be grappling with for a long time. I have a little slideshow that AI actually prepared, and I did it on purpose to illustrate a few things for you guys. I put some of my notes in, and I asked Claude, can you make me a slideshow based on this? So I'm telling y'all, this is a learning opportunity. I've used AI before. I've used AI a lot over the past 3 to 4 years. I've seen the changes. I've used different programs, and it can be very hit or miss. But there are some good usage cases, and there are some bad usage cases that I would not recommend. So tonight we're going to be talking about using AI for potential market research. We're going to be continuing on last week's Monday Night Live theme of researching this PRP business, this psychiatric rehabilitation program business, as a potential business venture in the East Coast in the state of Maryland. And we're going to continue to use our B.U.I.L.D framework to discover that. And we're going to use AI tonight to talk about how changes in Medicaid, Medicare, and health coverage in general through this big, beautiful bill, as it's called, would have an effect on potential PRP owners. We're also going to talk about the components of giving AI good instruction. We're going to talk about how to give it a role, how to give it context, how to define its task, define what format you want the answer in, and give it some rules and constraints so that it will give you something quality in response. We will also talk about how to safely vet and verify those responses, some different tips and tricks that I've gathered along the way. We'll talk about the limitation and the risks of AI, as well as going through some of those best use cases and worst use cases. So now I'm going to screen share. And give me a moment. 1 second. I have someone that I meant to invite into this Zoom room and I did not. And they are messaging me right now, like, where is my invitation? So give me just 1 second. Copy invite link. They're like, I got questions already. I know I got questions. And I love that. That's great. They're like, let me in. I got questions and I want to get in here. And that is fantastic. I'm happy for that. All right. And we're almost ready to go. Okay. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to share this screen with this. Perfect. Screen 2. Let's share it. Okay. So again, we're talking about AI use in nursing. This is something for nursing school applicants. This is something for nursing school students. This is something for nurse founders that are looking to start a healthcare related business. And just to go over, again, we're going to talk about its use in market research. We're going to talk about how to build better prompts for better responses from AI chatbots. We're going to talk about how to vet the information that it's giving you, limitations and risks to using it, and also best and worst use cases. So we're going to go through all of that tonight. Now, when we talked about the market research, we started using something called the B.U.I.L.D framework last week, okay? That B.U.I.L.D framework, I have improved upon it, okay? It's improved since the last time. I made it a little workbook and I'm going to show you guys that as well. I have it as a PDF for people who want to print it out and write on it. And then I also have it as, thank you for registering and jumping in this Zoom. I also have it as a Word document for those who want to continue to type it in and type out what they want to put there. So let me show this framework really quickly. One moment. Again, this is what I'm going to share really quickly. All right, so we talked about this framework last time. With the B.U.I.L.D framework, the idea is, number one, we're setting up our baseline, or our blueprint is another way to say this. And what this is going through the viability of the particular business idea. So baseline is all about viability. Can I do this? What credentials do I need to do this? Is the market available for me to actually make money doing this? And for the example that we use is PRP. And I use that as an example because I'm actually interested in starting a PRP business. So some of the questions we went over last week, we manually pulled this information from looking up different statutes, from looking up different codes in Maryland state, what you would call their COMAR code, which is sort of like the health codes and regulations of the state. We looked up this information manually. Can I own it with my current license? Do I have to have a medical director that's a physician, or, a DO to own it? Do I have to have an NP to own it, to operate it? Can a non-clinical person own it? And what is the current status on state licensing? Is there a pause or moratorium on that? Are there changes that have occurred? Are there any state legislation that's pending that's going to affect this business model? So I made this into more of a guidebook so that you could type in here or print it out and write in here. And this is something that I added based on my curiosities today. You have to look up legislature. You have to look up any protocol changes, because the information from 6 months ago may be the difference between you opening this in 3 months 6 months, 9 months, a year, or never being able to open it at all. So healthcare is very regulation sensitive, okay? So today, what we're going to be doing with the AI use is to see, is there any difference in what AI will tell me versus what we already verified last week? And what is AI going to tell me about how this big, beautiful bill will affect people that are interested in owning facilities of this nature? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and go back to my little blueprint and make sure I still got you guys all here. Okay, great. All right, so I went ahead and made another cheat sheet. I'll show you that later. For the beginning of market research, I would say that there are some AI models that are stronger than others. Perplexity is very strong on actual research. So that includes medical, scientific research. It includes getting it to research and pull content in certain instances from different message boards, different forums. Also, you can search through SEC filings if you're looking for financial information. It's very good at doing research, and it seems to be a little bit stronger at that than other models. But with Perplexity, it can hallucinate, right? It can hallucinate. And what you mean when we talk about hallucination in an AI model, it means it's giving you something as fact that may not actually be factually true, but it's very confident in it giving you this answer. And how I found out that AI can hallucinate is because I had a teacher in my advanced pharmacology class in my NP program that actually made us use AI every week. We had to rotate as a class, and half of the class would be assigned the task of making a handmade study guide from a specific chapter of the book. The other half of the class could make a chatbot generated study guide, right? They had to have at least like 10 to 20 citations that were all within the last 5 years to support the information and the content that would be in the study guide, whether it was handmade or whether it was chatbot made. We were allowed to use any tools that we wanted to, any AI system that we wanted to generate this, and we had to give it the constraints. So because I was pretty good at prompting, which I'll go through with you guys, I'm like, oh, this will be a breeze. My AI study guide is going to be incredible. And, I wasn't the first group to go. So we had other groups go, and I got to see their results first. And I could see one of the things that they talked about is it gave me sources that weren't real. I'm talking actual medical journal, scientific journal, peer-reviewed journal articles with full DOI numbers that led to nothing. These were fake sources in APA format that were completely unusable. And sometimes it would be a mashup. I mean, it's giving you author names, it's giving it to you in the right format. It will be the wrong year. It would be a study that never was done. It would be maybe a mashup of ideas between 2, 3, 4, 5 different studies that have happened over maybe 20 years instead of within the last 5 years. And sometimes it would just be completely fabricated, where nothing matches anything based in reality. It made up the names of the researchers. It made up the name of the medical journal that it was published in. It made up the peer review date. It made up the DOI number, and it told you this extremely confidently. It told you information on a number of therapies, of medications, of interactions that simply was not true. So that is one of the biggest dangers when we talk about some of the limitations and risks of AI. I just want to start here before we do anything else. I tell myself and I tell everybody that uses AI to use it as a tool and be aware that sometimes AI is an idiot and a liar. And it doesn't intend to be, but it can give you wrong information very confidently, and it can lie about it and continue to gaslight you, right? So when you're doing things like looking up regulations for business, you always want to fact check what AI is telling you. You don't want to have AI write your business plan from scratch. You definitely do not want that. You don't want to have AI, you know, take over your retirement account and tell you what you should be trading in and not trading in. Like, that's definitely not where you want to go with that, okay? So, moving forward, for this potential market research, I wanted to get some information on the big, beautiful bill and see what AI had to tell me about, the changes that this would cause to a potential PRP business. So, I'm going to actually show you how I prompted this, and that will lead us into how to set up a good prompt. And a prompt is just a fancy word for an instruction for the AI and how you want it to answer you. So I will open this now. And I will show you my prompt. And I actually had to enter this in twice because it did not give me all of the information that I needed in the first prompt. I kind of cut myself off in the middle of it. All right. Da, 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 da. Okay. Here we are. And now I'm going to share this. And it's going to be screen 2. So the prompt that I used for this particular task was, I gave the AI a role, I gave it a context, I gave it a task, a format, and some rules. I said, you are a healthcare industry expert. You specialize in small business ownership of healthcare services. Talk to me about this big, beautiful bill that was passed and how it would impact PRP ownership in the state of Maryland. So I gave it context. I'm talking about a specific business. I'm talking about in a specific state, right? And I'm giving it a task. I'm giving it a role. I'm saying what I want back. I want to know, with an emphasis on how billing is affected, if reimbursement rates have changed, if there are new program restraints that were not there before, if there are any other changes that are anticipated or that can be extrapolated from the information that we have. And I wanted direct information from the bill itself. I wanted professional analysis of the bill. I wanted reputable sites only. News sources were okay that discussed the funding cuts, etc. And I did not want information that was colored by specific political stances. In this context, I'm not saying in my life in general, but in this context, I just want the facts. I don't want any tilt on this. So that was what I asked AI to do. So you'll see those components that are needed in a healthy example of how to prompt AI. You'll see that what I did was I kind of used those building blocks. I gave it a role as a healthcare expert that specializes in legislation or healthcare business owners. I gave it a context, I gave it a task. I did not give it a format. I didn't say, give this back to me. I may have later in my second prompt, give this back to me in a PDF format with a brief summary at first and then a deep dive after that. I gave it some rules as far as what sources it could use and what it couldn't. I didn't say go to Reddit and look at Reddit's analysis of how these Medicare, Medicaid changes are going to affect. No, I did not include social media sites. Those are rules. When I say use reputable news sources, that's a rule. When I say use research, that is another example of a rule. If I say use SEC filings for some type of financial research, that is a rule, that's a constraint, and you want to have those with AI. When you're giving it instructions, you want to tell it as much what you want and what you don't want as you can. And you can give it an example if you want. In this particular case, I did not give it an example, right? So AI did give me something interesting back, and I'll show you what it wrote me for this. It did give me a PDF that I wanted, and let me see if it'll let me open this up right now. Oh, it probably wants me to download it first. Okay, cool. I'll share that. So I'll show you what it made for me, because I did later ask it to do this in a specific format. I asked it for a PDF with a brief summary at the top and then some key takeaways with details later. So this is what it prepared. And as you can see, I was not joking around. I made this right before the live so that I would have something to show you guys for small business owners. It explained when this was signed into law, what the actual name of the legislation is so that I can look this up and fact check, which is a requirement if you're using AI for business, if you're using it to study, if you're using it for projects, if you're using it as an applicant to get into nursing school, you have to research what it tells you. So it's telling me, the details on the bill. It's telling me that it is reducing spending for Medicaid over 10 years, approximately $1 trillion. It's telling me how much Maryland will be impacted. Maryland was one of the rules that I gave it, as well as the specific business format. And it's telling me that these things aren't all happening at once, that they're slated to happen over several years in phases, right? And it did talk about the risk of coverage loss. Marylanders may lose coverage to Medicaid. They gave an estimate of how many people. This is definitely something that I would want to verify, and hopefully there are details further down in the report. And it says that the outlook is cautionary, basically. They meet criteria for serious emotional disturbance or serious persistent mental illness. So they should be under a medically frail category, which means they would be exempt from work requirements. There was a state, I believe it was Nebraska, that was in the news recently for requiring Medicaid participants to work or prove that they have tried to work at least 80 hours a month to retain Medicaid. So if that is related to the Big Beautiful Bill, then that may be a problem for people that are enrolled in psychiatric rehabilitation programs throughout the state. If their mental illness is to the point that they are not able to work a certain amount of hours a month, then what this is saying is essentially they could be considered medically frail. They should be considered medically frail, but there may be some catches to that. There may be some details in how a person will qualify for that. So it does talk about, you would need to get those clients correctly classified. There's a redetermination every 6 months. I believe previously it was every year. And you would need to keep them involved. You need to basically be more involved in coverage of your clients that are coming through your PRP. So we have some key takeaways here, which is what I asked it to do. I said, give me a basic brief summary in the beginning and then get into more detail and give me figures, give me citations, give me everything that you have that is compelling you to make this argument about how it would affect me as a potential business owner or how it would affect anyone who's in this business. So I gave it a really big task, right? But it did come up. It started with, hey, this is what PRP is in Maryland. This is how it runs. These are some of the base monthly rates. And you'll notice that there will be some formatting things that are a little wonky with AI sometimes. You may have to get it to correct things. Then it's telling me about the Big Beautiful Bill provisions and what direct and indirect impact it could have on PRP businesses. And it is pulling specific sections, which I asked it to do, from the bill to justify how it's making these claims of it can affect this area, it can affect this area, it can affect this area. So it's talking about caps and state payments. It's talking about providers' tax restrictions. It's talking about specific waivers that are relevant to PRP and other things, right? And it went a step further and talked to me about Maryland specific changes that are running in parallel with this federal bill that was passed last summer. So it's telling me, hey, there's not just changes federally that will trickle down. Maryland is taking its own initiative to make some changes as well. This was not something that I asked for, but this is something that you may find helpful with AI when you give it a task like this and you put it in your shoes and you tell it what you really need. it may recognize things that you haven't identified yet that would be useful to you in the realm of around what you were asking for, which is really helpful, right? So this is just an example of some of the research that you can use AI as a tool to do. At the same time, we have to vet everything that AI tells us. We have to vet everything that AI tells us. And there are a few tricks to that. You should be looking up the sources that it's giving you. And if it is giving you like a dense legal document, you can actually, to make sure that AI is analyzing all of that, you can download that document on your own and have that AI system answer specific questions about that document and give you quotes from that document, as opposed to just citing, this law, this budget, this COMAR regulation. You can give it the COMAR section that's relevant to your business, which is like the Bible of healthcare businesses in Maryland. It's called COMAR law. And you can say, show me where in this COMAR law does it say that every adult that's unrelated in this building, has to have 80 square feet of free space to be in an assisted living facility, or has to have access to 3 large windows and common areas in an assisted living facility. Or tell me in this bill where it says that I have to have mounted fire extinguishers in every kitchen, hallway, etc. And at that level, when you're giving it the source and you're making it go through it, analyze it, and give you back quotes, that's a way to guarantee that it is not hallucinating, or you can't ever 100% guarantee, but it's a way to lessen the percent chance that it is hallucinating, as opposed to, just coming up with something. Sometimes AI doesn't read all of the source that you tell it to when you direct it to look up something online, and sometimes it can't access it. That's something that's really changed over the years in regards to AI. Bigger websites, including forums like Reddit, including places like YouTube, they are blocking access from AI chatbots to seeing and accessing any of their user material. So I used to use AI to search for the lowest priced on Amazon, perhaps. Maybe I saw a certain shirt that I liked. Maybe I saw a certain, home design element, a painting. And I want to, oh, okay, I just got some feedback about the live. Thank you. Okay, there we go. I had to fix something. Sorry about that, guys. Chat should be back up now. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so on Amazon. So maybe I want a pair of boots or something, or a new kitchen blender. I would say, hey, what's the cheapest price that I can find for this type of item? And which item has the best user reviews? Pull for me the common language of all negative reviews of these 3 listings, and tell me based on that which one is the strongest and which one is least likely to break on me. And in the past, Perplexity in particular was extremely skilled at that. So I could pull up, I don't know, 3 birdhouses, 3 vacuums, 3 different study guides, whatever the case is that I need to purchase, right? And I could say, compare and contrast user reviews and price points and tell me which one is the best based on both. And now it can't do that. It can't even look at these sales pages. It can't read the reviews, because when it goes on to see that information, it is blocked by Amazon servers. So sometimes it will not tell you that it's blocked. It will just guess what that page should be saying. So this is the risk of saying, hey, read this big federal bill and tell me how this is going to impact me financially over the next year. It may not be able to access that page. As far as I know, .gov is accessible to all of the major AI companies, but there may come a time where it's not. And it's not always forthcoming in telling you, I can't access this. It will try to go around it. It may look through the Wayback Machine, which gives you like old versions of pages. It may look at users' commentary on it that contains quotes from legislation, but it's not going to always tell you, I can't access this entire legislation. I can't access this entire page. I can't access this entire transcript. It's not always going to tell you that. So keep that in mind. As a way to strengthen your results, consider downloading that third-party information that you wanted to parse through, adding it as a file to add to that context and saying, mine data from this file for me, mine data from these handouts for me, right? So that is one of the suggestions that I make, especially for market research, especially when looking up legislation and rules and things like that. I'm not going to belabor this point much longer, okay? But I just want to make that clear. Now, as far as the components of building good examples and prompts for AI, we talked about this a little bit already. We want to show you this so that we go through all of these together, and I will share the screen again. One day I'm gonna be so smooth with this that I'm not gonna have to announce it to myself, but for now, we're not there yet, okay? So when you're telling AI the role, you are telling it who it should be answering this question as. You can set the voice, the expertise level, the lens that it's looking through. If I'm asking something as, hey, as an NP student, which medications are most appropriate for a patient who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and also has hypertension or high blood pressure? It's going to give me a different answer and rationale than it would if I said, hey, I'm a patient and I have high blood pressure and I need ADHD meds. What can I take? The drugs may be the same that it selects, but the rationale behind why it's picking that is going to be different based on who I say I am and who I needed to act as. So not only do you want to define its role, hey, you are a nursing instructor teaching a nursing student, or hey, you are a fitness coach and you founded a fitness app and you are warm and bubbly and really direct with people who are new to exercise. Maybe I wanted to take that role with me to suggest new exercises. But if I were already a personal trainer, if I already, was a physical therapist and I need information, I'm going to say, talk as a different role, talk as a co-owner of our physical therapy clinic together. I am trying to come up with a program for beginners that target XYZ. It's going to give you a different type of output. So you want to define the role of who it is. Do you want it to be an expert? Do you want it to be a user that has never seen your business before and you want it to look at your website and say, what are you catching from this? What impression is it leaving? You can give it the role that it needs to be. Just make sure that you define it well, right? And then you can set the scene. You want to give it context. So you want to give it a situation and a background. So that might be, hey, you're reaching out to new users that downloaded my app, but they have not worked out, whatever the case may be. And you also want to give it a task. You want to be specific, write them an email that gets them going. If it's a student thing or maybe a study app, can you get these users, what sentence or text message can I send them to get them to log on and study, right? And the format, how do you want it to answer you? Do you want it to be a draft of an email? Do you want it to be a research paper, a document? Do you want it to be a PowerPoint presentation? Make me a PowerPoint on 5 ways that I can retain users on my app, or make me a PowerPoint on how to remember all of the anxiolytic class of medications and the differences between them. You want to tell it in what format should it answer. And then you want to draw guardrails. You want to give it rules. So a rule that I find myself commonly using as an MP student is only use peer-reviewed sources. Only use peer-reviewed sources. Don't give me comments from MySpace from 2007 when I'm asking you about what are people worried about when they get diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder for the first time. Like, that might have been relevant then, but I want something from some qualitative and quantitative research in psychiatry, right? So you can give it rules. You can say, look up these sources, don't look up these sources. Use this terminology, don't use this terminology. Another example of a good rule could be, speak to me as a clinician that is collaborating with me on a case study. You could say, don't answer me as AI. Answer me the way that I would be receiving report from a collaborating physician or clinician on this case, right? And that even may help you up your game of how you're communicating. You can set a rule of communicate back with, expect my communication to be on par professionally with yours to fit this scenario. There are different ways that you can basically get a much better and stronger output from AI. So I'm going to use an example with you guys, right, of a prompt. And of course, I didn't write this down. And of course, even though this was in my notes for this PowerPoint that AI made based on my notes, it did not include it in the PowerPoint presentation. Like I said, it's not perfect. So this prompt, I'll put it in a comment below. Let's say the role we want AI to play is to be a nursing school administrator and admissions rep. You're nervous about your nursing school interview. You might get in. You got the interview. You're excited, but you're nervous, right? This is where we can use AI to our advantage. We give it the role. Hey, you, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, whoever. You are a nursing school administrator who has 10 years worth of admissions board experience. Okay, that's the role. Context. You are interviewing a potential nursing student who's eligible to receive a seat in your open cohort, right? Okay, task. Now we're going to be specific. Walk through a typical nursing school interview with me as the student. Okay. Format. Have a conversational based exchange with me, returning feedback after every answer that I give or at the end of this interview. Okay. Rules. Use data available from existing universities. Utilize message boards and online spaces that admissions reps commonly post commentary and complaints about applicants on, right? And then go ahead and tell it, let's start the simulation. This is a good way to use AI because it's going to not only expose you to questions that you may not have considered before because it's pulling from sources that people use, is pulling from blogs that are maybe from universities, is pulling from all types of information, but it's also grading your input that you're giving it as things are going on and giving you feedback. And you can further refine this by saying, critique or grade my answers on a 10-point scale or on a 100-point scale. Did I get a 92 at the end of this, or did I bomb it and get a 67%? And why? Why were these strong answers? Why were these weak answers? This is a way, and you can even say, hey, give me proof for why you're critiquing my answers. Why was this bad? What do nursing school reps say about why they hate these type of answers or how I could have made it stronger? You can get AI to get some really specific information. It's all in what you're asking it. Now, when it comes to actually vetting the information, there are two tried and true ways that I get AI to vet things, or that I vet AI. Sometimes it's system versus system. So I have a book out that's called What I Wish I Knew About Nursing School. Okay. I sell this book on my website, www.thenextlevelnurse.com. I sell this book on Amazon as well. And on Amazon, on occasion, I run different advertisement campaigns to get that book in front of more Amazon shoppers, especially during times of year that people are really considering or beginning their nursing school journey, right? So when I run advertising campaign, I get a bunch of data back that looks like another language to me. I get data on who clicked it, how much that click cost, how far down the page they scrolled, whether they put it in their cart and never bought it, whether they actually purchased it. All of that data comes to me. So I download some of that data to make sense of it. And over the years, of course, I've learned what these terms mean. But I also give this Excel sheet to AI. And I have found that AI can catch other AI that's hallucinating. So I've given this Excel sheet to Perplexity and said, what do you make of this? What are the most surprising trends? What keywords or search terms should I optimize or maybe bid a little bit higher for that are translating well into getting sales? And sometimes Perplexity will give me different analysis than Gemini, will give me different analysis than Claude. But when I have them swap answers, then sometimes they will admit, oh, this other model is actually correct. I did not have the right information for this. I thought that your listing price was this amount because we talked about this 6 months ago and this was the last data that I had on it. Or I assumed it was this amount because something in this chart said so, but it didn't actually say so. So sometimes you can catch an error by having AI critique other AI's answers and just saying, hey, Claude, this is what Gemini said about my ad strategy and how I can optimize it. Do you agree, yes or no? And give evidence as to why from the Excel spreadsheet, etc. Sometimes that is helpful. If you have your bearings and you kind of already know what is going on and what the trends are, it can help to sort of sort out any weirdness. Another thing is you always want to verify against something that you know. You don't want to use AI to help you in an area where you don't know absolutely anything yet, unless you're on a very introductory task, and that's what you're using AI for. So if Claude tells me that, Maryland regulation says that you have to actually have 5 fire signs in each room and 5 maps of how to get to the emergency exit in each room, I'm going to say what Maryland statute tells you that. And I'm going to go look that up and verify it, right? Sometimes it can give a citation from a paper. Go pull up that paper. I already told y'all with my advanced pharmacology class, you would think it can't hallucinate on freaking medications, right? Medications like antibiotics that have been around for a long time. It hallucinated facts about medications, guys. So you want to look up the sources that it's giving you. Don't just say, oh, it's giving me all these sources, it must be right. No, don't do that, okay? Don't trust it. It's an idiot and a liar. It's a useful tool, but it can be an idiot and a liar, okay? So moving on to wrap up this live, we're going to talk about some best use cases, right? And oh, no, wait. We're going to talk about some additional risks first, because it just reminded me to do that. You need to know, we talked about hallucinations, not going to beat a dead horse, but you also have to know that privacy is not a default. So if you're using this as a clinician, if you're using this to help you with a case study as a nursing student, as an NP student, as a respiratory therapy student, as a speech language pathologist student, in any of these programs where you're dealing with people's sensitive information and data, take their information out of there. For that matter, take your information out of there. It's not secure. A lot of tools, especially at the free level, you don't have an option to turn off the fact that it is using your conversations with it to further train its model. So you don't want to get any HIPAA violations, and you also don't want to just share stuff that's overly sensitive. So use initials. That's a good rule of thumb in general. Also, keep in mind, if you are a clinician and you do have a license and you use AI to guide your treatment decisions, AI is not going to be liable if you make a bad decision based on what it told you. AI cannot be sued for treatment decisions that clinicians access through it at this point. I haven't seen a lawsuit yet. That may change, but I don't think I can tell Sam Altman, your app told me to give someone, clonazepam that is sensitive to clonazepam and has super low blood pressure and a low heart rate and et cetera, right? I would take responsibility for that if I decided to prescribe someone something, if I decided to initiate a treatment protocol, if I decided to, run a bunch of inappropriate tests and labs to verify something. I'm going to be responsible for the decisions that I make. So keep that in mind. This is again why you always want to fact check and use existing information that you know. And like it says here, patient safety is on you. AI does not know your patient as well as you know your patient. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, so good use cases, now that I've scared you to death. AI is great for checking work that you've already done. If you already wrote a draft on a paper and you just want someone to do a first pass edit of that, then AI is great for that. Okay, put that puppy in there. If you have a case study and everybody's been de-identified, right? Put that puppy in there and say, did I miss something? If your professors allow you to, if your preceptors allow you to, if your school says don't do it, don't use it at all, right? For research, I was looking up very niche to my field research on long-acting injectables that are like antipsychotic medications because, again, I'm in a Psych MP program. Using something like Perplexity that can mine research studies faster than I could pull them up from my school's libraries, like database, right? So I would have to publicly, I would have to look up PubMed and type in all of this and click a bunch of buttons for constraints. It has to be within the last 5 years. It has to have these terms. I can use Perplexity to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what my paper is shaping up to be. Is there evidence for XYZ? Can you find research within the last 5 years that shows XYZ? Can you find contradictory research that doesn't support my hypothesis? It can be a little bit faster with mining information like that and finding really strong cases for you. If you are looking up something that is more niche, it can get you some relevant research very quickly. And Perplexity is very good at research again. If we take anything from this, know that Perplexity is great. Scientific papers, medical research, just that stuff, it's really, really good on. If you have that dense legal document, like I talked about, and the difference from you knowing if you can do something or not knowing if you can do it is just getting through this document, put that document in AI and ask it questions and get quotes from it. And even put your notes in AI to make study guides, to make study guide games. Claude Code is strong enough now that I could make like a medication game with all of my notes. It knows exactly what medications I need to know for my board exams. And I can say, make this a fun game where it asks me a different level of question and I get points and move this little guy along, a ski slope or something as I'm answering. It's actually not cost prohibitive to do things like that now, which is wild, but it's really good if you feed it good source material and have it do something fun. It can do that. Now, where it's going to get you in trouble is, again, treatment without verification. We're just not there yet. We're not there yet, and we should never be there, because if AI can treat people without us using our brain and our expertise, then why are we needed, right? And when it comes to writing, AI should not be your first draft partner. Like, get some things out onto paper first. Get an outline, fill that outline in. Starting the essay, writing the essay, that's important. And it's sharpening your ability to think critically. AI is not going to be there when you take your board exams. It's not going to be in the room with you when you're talking to patients. Hopefully, not yet. It's not going to be writing the prescriptions for you when you become a prescriber. It's important to be able to use your critical thinking, to be able to problem solve in real time. And the more you lean on AI to do that, the weaker that muscle will get. And that is one of the best things about being a human being. And it's one of the greatest things about healthcare is we get to solve interesting problems and help people. So do that and use AI as a tool to refine that. Don't use it to study for tests in a vague way. If you don't give it notes and you don't give it guidance, I could say, help me study for Bio 100. And it may give me stuff that never shows up on my test. If I'm able to give it the PowerPoints that my teacher taught from, or my notes on those PowerPoints, or some presentations, it will come up with much better, more specific questions that are more likely to help you in your class. So for me, for my boards, I'm not going to say, give me 100 questions that a psych MP should know. No, I'm going to say specifically, I want to study for my boards. These were the things that my preceptor told me to focus on. My professors told me to focus on. Can you help me come up with a study guide for this? Don't give it anything vague, whether that be business advice or study prompts. It's not good if it's vague, okay? You don't want to be too vague because it's going to give you a vague answer that you can't really get a lot of use from. So use it like a sharp tool, set the role, give the context, check the work, and you should be good. So thank you guys so much for coming to this live. Again, we meet every Monday. We talk about a different topic, or sometimes we'll have continuations of the same theme. Today, we did continue using our B.U.I.L.D framework to do some PRP research, but we integrated that into AI because I really want to talk about AI. I love mentoring, and I have some younger mentors that are leaning heavily into AI, and I'm like excited for them to learn a new thing and to come up with these new competencies, but I'm also scared that the competencies that they already have as smart, intelligent, involved human beings are going to wither away. So make sure you protect your mind while you're using AI. Protect your ability to critically think and problem solve and be quick on your feet, but also don't be afraid to use this tool appropriately. All right, guys.